Welcome to the Possibility Paradigm podcast, where we have conversations that are at the intersection of possibility, consciousness, actual experience, and energetic intelligence. The Possibility Paradigm are actually more than conversations. They're experiences that can change your tomorrows. Let's jump into today's episode. What if change and/or transformation actually don't require years of effort and hard work, but can actually be activated by a shift in energy? Welcome back to the Possibility Paradigm. I'm Grace Ambrook, your host. In our last episode, we explored one of the foundations, which is that you are an infinite being beyond what you might identify yourself as. And today we're going to take that next step and we're going to have a look at how do we actually kind of disrupt, how do we work with the energy more consciously, right? And how do we disrupt energetic patterns, the ones that are keeping us confined to the old ways of being and the old ways of doing business, and keeping us in those limitations that we talked about previously. So, for conscious business owners, for those people who know that there is something greater calling them, there's actually a particular struggle that often goes unnamed. Because you see, you actually truly sense there's a more expansive way to operate and to be in business. But you can't access that through conventional strategies and tactics. And there's the change, because change or transformation is not actually about adding new information and new techniques. That's the second aspect, right? What actually comes first is disrupting the energetic patterns that keep you operating from that limitation rather than the possibility. In the work that I do, I talk about where are you attached, where are you invested, and where are you identified with the limitation. And so, we can, and I did it myself. I added new information. I added new techniques. And there's a slight movement, but for sustainable change and a continuum of greater and greater experiences, without that energetic, changing the energetics, it actually becomes hard work. That is where the hard work sits, right? The energy enables you to fulfill that innate drive that you have to create better. And if your energy is not attuning to that capacity, it is hard work, time after time. So by the end of today's episode, you'll understand how to read some underlying energies rather than just getting stuck in judging the surface symptoms. And you'll have a practical tool that helps you to dissolve limiting structures in both your personal development and in your business expansion. But more importantly, you'll actually begin experiencing the lightness that comes when you shift from fixing problems to activating potential. I'm really excited about sharing this with you today. So let's start with beyond fixing. So the conventional approach to change focuses on fixing what's wrong and identifying problems and then creating a solution. Now, when I look at that energetically, it works, right? I'm not saying it doesn't. It clunks. And it is actually embedded and reinforces the limitations that you're trying to overcome, right? So what if problems aren't obstacles to be solved? What if they aren't problems to be solved, but actually signposts pointing to possibilities that you may not have considered. So it's very difficult to see the signpost if you're not looking. If you're not looking to go over there, you're not looking for a signpost to say, go over there. And that perspective is locked into when you're just fixing a problem. You'll never see the other signposts, right? Because you're just fixing a problem. So this is an example of problem fixing. So many, many years ago, I undertook some business coaching, and I want to share what happened in that so you can see what shifted for everybody when I facilitated moving from problem fixing into new possibility, and how really naturally that happened. So I was in this group, and the facilitator invited me to contribute into the group. And we were talking about, what I call old marketing language in terms of goal setting. These days, we look at what's constantly wanting to be expanded, and there are targets rather than goals, because it's much more collaborative with the actual possibilities. And that's one of the energetic changes that I work with. But it was interesting because when I made that presentation, everything shifted, because the goal setting was too small for the capacity of the facilitator and the capacity of the group. And so as we shifted that, everything changed. Her business escalated. The success rate within the group escalated, because we began working with the possibilities. So one of the interviews that I have planned for the future is actually working with a woman who is going to share her story about physical recovery and transcending the traditional medical model of fixing the body, fixing the problem of the body. And what makes her sharing so powerful is her recognition that healing isn't about returning to a previous state. It's about disrupting the patterns to access new ways for the body to, in inverted commas, function. And, it's the same principle applies whether we're shifting our experience from our physical injuries, our business setbacks, and, where we're limited in any way. It's the same paradigm. And it's very, very powerful. Excuse me. So part of this way, and I worked as a professional kinesiologist for many years, and again, in sharing that particular woman's story, she'll be, because kinesiology doesn't fix the body, it works with the body's wisdom. Anyway, I digress a little bit. Most of us have, like talking about reading the energy, most of us have been trained to analyze situations logically, examining facts, data, and what we see. And this is valuable because I'm not talking about one or the other. I'm actually always talking about everything is possible and everything contributes. It's the way we've been perceiving these things that limit their contribution to us, right? And this is what we're shifting in the possibility paradigm. And so while all of that assessment and collection of data and information is valuable, it will only take us a certain way, and it's only part of the information, because there is an underlying energy, an underlying frequency, an underlying I'm going to say like a consortium of energies that's generating what we are observing as our reality. And so as we learn to read the energy, it's like gaining access to the source code of your experience. And that when you change things at the source, everything else, domino effects out from that, right? So let's do a simple exercise. Let's try a simple exercise. So think of a recurring challenge that you have either in your business or perhaps in your personal life, or perhaps something is a repeating pattern in a relationship. Let's say within your team, there's there's an energy that's draining, and that feels very draining, and conversations keep kind of like stalling, or everything feels heavier and more difficult. It feels very processed and processing, right? Heavier than it should. So what if instead of analyzing what's happening and who's not doing this and who should be doing that, what if you dropped all of that analysis and paid attention and shifted your attention to what does the actual energy look like and what is the energy telling you? Now, so using that example, what I see is a whole lot of gaps. So if it was the nervous system in the body, the nervous system, they're not talking to each other, and they're not sharing the same dedication to the transferring of energy. But there's a key here that I would also like to share with you. And makes the work that I do just a little bit different, because I'm not really encouraging you to go to what it feels like, right? Because there's a very funny thing when we get stuck into what this feels like or what the energy feels like, because that feeling energy is the energy that attaches you to what has previously occurred. So it attaches you, your feelings attach you to your limitations. What I'm asking you to do is, what are you aware of the energy? What's your observational capacity, not your feeling capacity? So is the energy dynamic or stagnant? And you can see that you start to become the observer of the energetics, not the feeler of the reality that keeps it as your reality, right? So, is it dynamic or is it stagnant? So I've already said to you, when I look at that example, I go, oh, there's a lack of connectivity. Ah, okay. What energy actually connects? Does the energy, is it sharp or smooth, or does it invite, or is it repulse? And again, on that energy, this is not saying, depending on what you're doing, right? So sometimes it's good to have things pushed out of you, out of your world, because they're not relevant to you, right? So it's, again, I'm beginning to plant these seeds of not looking for the right thing or the wrong thing. It's like being aware of everything that is in there. And is it generating greater in what it is that you're choosing to create? And the other question that I always come to is it what I would choose as an infinite being, right? Or is it simply something, or is it simply an energetic pattern or a pattern of behavior that you're used to doing, or you've been told that you should do, or that you've been programmed for? And is there a hidden addiction to overcoming problems, which we talked about? Are you unconsciously addicted to overcoming difficulties? That in itself could be a whole podcast. Let me know if you'd like to hear more about that. So this is you reading the energy, right? Which is very, very different from feeling the energy. It's way more empowering, and allows you to choose to be super collaborative with the universe and with the people around you, because you're not bringing your feelings to this, you're bringing your awareness to it. Your awareness is way bigger way bigger than your feelings. It's way more connected. It's way more contributive. So in one of the future episodes, I'll be talking with a woman whose ability, she's also developed her ability to read energy. And I'm really looking forward to this because it'll be just a lot of fun, I reckon, when we're both reading the energy. But she will be talking also about the body, utilizing the body's wisdom to gain access and information beyond your conscious awareness. So, and how can you, as a infinite being, and how can you sharing your life with this incredible, most creative, extraordinary creation called the body? But anyway, again, I get a bit sidetracked sometimes. So in our conversation, we're going to explore, how you can utilize the energy reading as a conscious business person and how it can help you navigate and develop this capacity within you so that decisions can be clearer and more generative of what it is that is your target. So I want to talk a little bit now about the methodology, perhaps, of disruptive energy. So once you can read energy, well, it's not just, sorry, that's incorrect. It's not so much disruptive energy, although you will also become aware of that, but that's a judgment, which I don't highly encourage. It's an awareness, because once you can start to read the energy, you can start to work with it. You can change it. You can disrupt its path into something that generates. You can shift the frequency. And when you shift the frequency, you shift your reality. So it's not your reality that creates your perspective. It's your perspective that creates your reality. And so this isn't about forcing things, but it does have a connection with how willing are you to allow your capacity to read the energy and start to change the energetic foundations so that new possibilities can naturally emerge, not from you being passive, but from you being receptive and aware. So let me go a little bit more into how you might do this. So first of all, you've got to recognize the pattern. See the pattern. It's not a feeling. It's not a definition. It's a pattern, right? So you can see, I haven't got a knitted jumper on today, but you can see that different stitches make up different patterns in jumpers, right? So patterns. So I'm encouraging you, first step, right? Recognize the pattern. Patterns operate outside of awareness until we shine the light of consciousness onto them. So they're bubbling along, and then we go, okay, so there must be a pattern going on here. Let me shine the light of my consciousness on this to change it, to disrupt the way it's been running, because it doesn't suit me. So I had a woman the other day I was working with, and there was this odd pattern because the business in her business, like the amount of business had remained the same. She'd actually lowered some of the costs, and the bank balance didn't reflect it, right? Let's go, what? That, like, right? So it's not logical. There are a few other components in there, but for the moment, I'm sure you're with me, right? And go, oh, okay. So what's the energetic pattern? Now they're in the process of shifting. They have a number of businesses, and they're in the process of shifting where their energy shifts with each of those businesses. And between the two of them, there's a little bit of argy-bargy going on around finances. I see. I see, Grace. All right. So then as we can play with the different energies of the business partners in relationship to financial frameworks and financial targets, etc., then once we played with that, poof, everything started filling the coppers back up again. So, but I did actually have another example that I wanted to share with you here. So I'm going to use that as well. So for example, if you're a person who's undercharging, consistently undercharging, it's very easy to attach a low value worthiness story to that experience. So I'm just going to run with that. I actually do have a video, which if you would like it, you could, the link is below in the notes there, but because it actually questions the whole unworthiness story at all. But let's just work with it as an example because I think it's tangible for most people. So they're undercharging because their story is that they're operating from a pattern of low value or, worthiness questions. So our second step is, okay, so you've acknowledged the pattern, now disrupt the energy. And this happens through questioning the assumptions that you've made. And opening up, it's like what is it that holds that perception in place? What is it that holds? What is it that maintains the pattern, right? Not trying to fix the pattern. What is it that holds it in there? What worthiness story or value story is holding that in place? So you've got to be aware of your illusions, your conclusions, and your delusions. Where are you deluding yourself? Where are you just hanging on to something? What conclusions have you made? I must be unworthy, and you're carrying that around as a conclusion. So you start to disrupt the energy. And one of the ways that you can do that quite quickly and easily is, who would I be? If I knew my value was inherent and not earned, listen to my video. If I knew, who would I be? If I knew that my value was inherent and not earned. Then how easy does your pricing become? Because you realize that clients, customers, viewers are not the source of your value. The value for you, of you, is not for sale. You are the source of your value. And the infinite being knows so much about that value. The logical mind, the identity, will resist, fight, question, doubt. The infinite being, instant access, always. Your value is not for sale. Your value is yours. And so when you ask that question, who would I be if I knew my value was inherent and not earned? Just play with that, right? If you're running that story. And then tune into the energy of how wider does your stream of receivership become? Then the third step is allowance of a new possibility. So once you've disrupted the pattern, can you allow yourself to create space for new energy to emerge? And this is not about forcing specific things. This is not about projecting or expecting. This is about allowance of new awareness to come to you. Will you receive new awareness? And sometimes it's like, wow, okay. Like you get that. That's where I see a lot of people call enthusiasm or excitement fear, because you, the infinite being in your body, we register it, right? It sparks something off, right? It's so often called, oh, it's raised a whole lot of fears in me. No. It's actually raised a whole lot of excitement in you. And is it different? Yes. And maybe you have never walked that path before. That is correct. That's true. So what? Like, do you have to give it like, why is that a problem? Every path you walked at some stage was new. So, we're going to be speaking more and more around conscious business, what it takes to actually recognize that your marketing isn't about learning new tactics, it's about disrupting the energy of manipulation and control that permeates conventional marketing. And when you allow yourself to do that, you actually make authentic connections with people. And I think if you're in business, that's actually really one of the core reasons, right? If you're a conscious business owner, authentic connection. It happens naturally because you've disrupted what you've been manipulated into thinking you have to be and do in order to have success. What paradigm is that? So the other thing I want to think about is, I'm encouraging you to think about is moving. That's funny. I've just realized how funny that is because we're moving from overthinking to receiving. And I have been a chronic overthinker. I know this one. And now I go, okay, so I'm totally in overthinking. So I know I am out of connection to my infinite being and I'm in some doubting human program that is not a reflection of the truth of who I be. So one of the most profound shifts is in this moving from overthinking to receiving. So if I was not clogging up my capacities with thinking, what am I actually willing to receive here? Because the thinking is the thing that gets us trapped in familial mental patterns. So because I see energy, I see just the same pattern going off, striking off in people's brains. I see the pathways. And there's a hunger, an internal hunger from the body and the being for actually creating new pathways. And yet it's like, they just keep going down. So in this, so if you step out of the thinking brain and into the receptive capacities and allowing yourself to receive intelligence from source intelligence beyond your personal thinking. And I'm wondering how many of you then sensed like a pulsation from your heart. It's like, oh yeah, that. And, all of the people who have moved through and created things that were deemed not possible. So referring back to the woman who developed the film, the documentary around the octopus and the man. I mean, she had to think differently, right? Well, it's not even thinking differently, really. She probably thought she had to think differently. But what I'm saying to you is what happens if that's not even it? And what happens if you place yourself in the capacity to receive, excuse me, from source intelligence, from source intel, and then allow your thinking to play with that. Even your brain gets excited by that because it gets bored going down the same pathways, right? It wants something new to play with, trust me. And most often, it's beyond today's podcast, but most often, that comes from more active and conscious connection from the intelligence of the heart, which is always sending messages up to the brain. And so how might you apply this to business? So for a conscious business owner, if you move out of overthinking and into receiving, you will break these patterns of exhausting when you're trying to figure everything out, and this capacity to receive insights, to receive guidance, to receive possibilities that transcend just what your individual perspective is about. This is you truly stepping into being the infinite being on the planet to totally explore and experience, you personally experience new and wonderful things. You didn't come here to do same. You came here to do different and wonderful things, which requires a receptivity to source intelligence. So this could be a fun, practical exercise, right? So if you've got what you've classified as an important business decision stroke choice coming up, you've got all the relevant information and you've got, the ducks in a row to the extent that actually works for you. Some people have got them all lined up militarily, and some people have them sitting in a pond together. But what works for you? So you've got enough ducks in the row. And then the invitation then is to expand your receptivity. Some people like to do that via meditation. Some people like to do that by being in awe with nature. I'm blessed to have the most amazing view out from my home. Now, when I look at that view and the changing, constantly changing clouds, light, it's highly receptive. So you shift from, so whatever it is for you, some people, it might be going for a run. I used to receive downloads when I was running. It's amazing. But you have enough, the energy is kind of, in inverted commas, gathered. I was going to say organized, but, gathered enough because it's a collaboration, right? Not a, I'm being told what to do. It's a collaboration. We're the ones on the earth, right? We're the ones on the ground. But no, so this shift from problem solving to receptive interaction with connection, receptive interaction with insights, receptive interaction with possibilities. Notice what emerges when you create this space. And it does actually require you to, at the moment, things are changing. This will become our first nature, not a practice soon enough. But allow yourself to create this space for a moment, right? Because in your entrepreneurial journey, in the way that we're talking about within the possibility paradigm, which is conscious business owners, right? Energetically aware, big-hearted, on a mission of contribution to self and to the planet and to others. Most people who are experiencing success, it's been about their willingness to receive insight and inspiration beyond the conventional thinking. And so I really look forward to having those conversations with people and how helping us all to learn different ways to maintain the receptivity amidst the demands of, business, life, the show that's going on in the world like crazy. As I've been saying for many years, we need to develop the practice of being very, very au fait with not knowing and knowing at the same time. When we develop that capacity to know and not know, we're infinitely connected to possibilities. And, that the moment the world is really shaking up, the things we thought we knew are changing because, well, that is another subject because that's the evolution of the planet and humanity. But in today's, I just wanted to bring today then to a conclusion with you. So we've explored how to go that 3-step around the energetic disruption. and moving from fixing the problems again to activating possibilities. We've talked more about the underlying energies and being able to disrupt the patterns and then shift from overthinking to receiving, right? And these capacities, they're actually more than tools, right? They're essential for us as a conscious entrepreneur, as a being who is willing to utilize all the resources on this planet and beyond to create what it is that you know that you're here to create and contribute, right? So you'll use all the resources, surely. So one of the things that you might like to play with during the week is to experiment with playing with that, disrupting the energies of where you become, what you become aware of. Just take maybe one aspect of your business and play with it for the week and see what happens. And just notice where, that limitation is playing out or the stuckness. Read the underlying energy. Disrupt the pattern through questioning what you've assumed and what you've decided, and then I ask some questions, not yes, no questions, but questions from curiosity and creation. And then allowance of things, not passive, but being super aware, super aware. Create enough space to receive the possibilities, because the change and transformation just doesn't happen through effort. It happens way more through allowance. Effort is just the old way of doing things. It will slow you down. Allowance and then action is your momentum, not efforting. And so I hope that really supports you. And in our final of this 3-part series, this introductory into the possibility paradigm, we're going to be talking about living from possibility and the continuous unfolding of that. We'll examine a little bit more about success, which is a huge topic in itself. But, as a starter, we can stop chasing fixed definitions of that and really begin to allow ourselves to embrace the continuous activation of new possibilities. Being super curious about that completely changes your life force. And when your life force changes, let me guarantee that your health will change and your wealth will change. But until then, remember, this change, this transformation isn't about becoming something you're not. It's about disrupting the patterns that have been preventing you from expressing who you truly are, because you are the possibility. Thank you so much for joining me on the possibility paradigm. If today sparked something in you and you have some questions, I'd love to hear from you. Contact details are below. You can find me on Instagram or on Facebook. I'll be honest, I'm not super active over there, but I am over there, and under the name of Grace Ambrook. And until next time, this is Grace Ambrook reminding you and activating within you that beyond every limitation, perceived limitation is a possibility that is uniquely yours to experience. And I cannot wait to hear about those. Okay, bye for now.